Welcome back to the Introduction to Java Programming Language course, a presentation of coding boot camps. This is still session 5, writing methods, and in this video we are going to discuss method overloading, and we are going to look at our lab and assignment. So in Java, we saw an example a little earlier in this session that methods can be overloaded. In other words, we can call actually different methods of the same name. So the header and the name are identical within the same class. However, the arguments passed to it are different. So the argument list is different. The argument list could differ by the number of parameters, or the data type of the parameters, or the sequence of the data type for the parameters. Let's take a quick look at an example. So here we can see in our lab example, we have two methods here, both with the name setBodyType. But we can see here that one setBodyType takes an integer and another setBodyType takes a string. And the way they are called, if we look at how they're called down here, one time we call setBodyType with an integer, and the next two times we call setBodyType with a string. So we can see here how we are overloading the setBodyType methods. And they have slightly different code blocks. Also, we can also overload constructors. So constructors are really special methods. So we can see this constructor, our name of our class is car, and the method name car are the constructors. And we can see that this constructor takes 3 parameters, and the other constructor takes 2. And when they are called, we can recognize which constructor is actually being called down here. When we instantiate the car class, we see here 3 parameters, so we know which constructor is being called there. 2 parameters, so we know a different constructor is being called there, and then back to the 3 parameters. And these look like they are just the 2, right? We don't have any more than 2 different constructors. So with our assignment here, we are going to create a simple application that can do the following. Create a car object or a car class with attributes. So we have to think, what are the attributes and methods for a car? And we want to modify the car with method overloading to do things like paint the car, set the size and tires and so on. So we're going to start off with a lab that's very similar to this. And as you go through, you can add methods or variables or attributes for things like paint or size or tires, whatever you think it should be. That's absolutely fine as long as you get it working. If you follow the examples of the lab, it shouldn't be a problem. Part of which, or all of it, can be passed in through the keyboard. The example we're going to look at is only uses a few parameters passed in for the keyboard, only because the length of it gets to be long and it gets to be a more difficult example to present. But you can certainly change that. So in summary, we talked about static versus dynamic allocation, declaring methods, and declaring methods with multiple parameters. We talked about the method called stack and scope of declarations, argument promotion and casting, reusability, and method overloading. Again, please check your learner materials for the information on live private coaching sessions for Java. And thank you. So if we take a look here at this class, so what we did is we created a car project up here. We gave it a package called auto. You can see it up here. And because we're using Scanner, we have to import the reusable Java util libraries, class libraries. We have some private data that we're declaring here, and we have some comments. We have our 2 constructors, get some work with overloaded constructors. We have our sets and we have our gets. We do some casting. So you can see here we do, down here, we cast an integer as a string because we are taking integer data, but we want to be able to set the value as a string. And we also do some concatenation here as well to get some work with some concatenation. Because our parameters through our constructors have different numbers of parameters, when we actually, again, call the toString to cast a car as a set of strings, we're going to have two different patterns. So because we have, one time we have two parameters and one time we have three. So if you look here, this is outputting 3 parameters and the first line is outputting 2. And as we go down here, you can see that we are overloading the methods and we are overloading the constructors. And we are also doing our casting down here as well. So we're casting a car type as a string and then outputting it. So if we actually run this, so let's click on the class file and we'll do run as Java application. First thing it's going to do is prompt us for this very first car. We entered the data here in the code, but the first car we're entering data here. We'll enter the make. And what if you look up here in the comments, it gives us a clue about what make, model, and year we can put in just so we can run this. So we'll say it's a Ford. Our model will say F-150. And for the year, we'll say 2015. And then we see the output here for the rest. So from the rest of the application. So we can see that the 4 was input as the type here, the body type. We passed in a 4. Another time we did crossover, and another time we did SUV. Here is the Ford F-150 and year, and then the other data is just passed in this way, just hard-coded within the application. Just to once you input from the keyboard, it's done the same way every single time. So that's one thing that you can make changes to. And you can add other methods for painting or data for painting, for number of tires, and so on. But please look over this lab and stay tuned for the next lesson.